We make cerebral games for thinking people. It has to be a strategy game. It has to have scope. It has to be big with a lot of playable factions, big map, a lot of stuff to do.
And it should definitely have a focus on emergent gameplay.
Yes, we want to tell player stories, or rather we want players to experience player stories rather than us making sort of developer stories. And it is liberating in many ways as a developer to be able to do anything. So that's what Stellaris is. It's really anything. You know, we throw the kitchen sink in there.
We made a science fiction game by basically taking every single science fiction trope and putting it into said science fiction game and sort of seeing what came out at the end. It was about the day before we did our very first, stream, when the Blorg first came onto the stage. I was supposed to stream with Anders, and I was sitting thinking about, okay, so what are we gonna play? I would like to play something more interesting, and I kind of booted up the game, and I saw that there was a new portrait in, and it was the Blorg, although they weren't called that then. And I saw that portrait and I want to play that. So I thought about, okay, so what would make an interesting thing for this particular portrait? You know, they're kind of hideous. I love you, but you are. They are very, very friendly, but because they're so hideous, nobody wants to befriend them. So they kind of have to go into the galaxy seeking out, essentially, friends to conquer. And it kind of grew from there. We didn't really expect it to become the mascot or anything. It just happened.
I was a bit hesitant, because the ones we had, the predefined factions, were sort of sci-fi tropey and serious-ish. And the Blorg were just so out there.
Yeah.
But, hey, they're the Blorg, so...
They're the Blorg. Basically, after release and after we had done the first sort of patches, we sat down there after the summer and we made a roadmap for the future. And we also came up with this sort of concept of a story pack, which is essentially creating a bunch of content in terms of stories and adding it to the game. Because to give an example would be the Horizon Signal, which is basically a story about a weird worm that lives in a black hole that loves you. That wouldn't exactly work in EU4.
No, but I think it's very interesting how these written stories can interweave and interfere with each other, so you get weird combinations while, you know, in one play session, two things might coincide. That makes it extra interesting and so on, and that creates a story in the player's mind. Yeah, I think strategy games are really perfect for this in a way, because you're playing against opponents that have equal agency with the player, almost. And that is rare in other types of games, but in strategy games you get that sort of conflict going that is so conducive for good anecdotes and memories.
And as for the future, well, we're about halfway down that roadmap. Now, I'm not gonna say the end of the roadmap means the end of development, because as everyone knows, we can't keep developing expansion for our games as long as people want and buy them. But I will say that there's definitely a lot of exciting things coming for the future.